You want to know why most people never become great? It's because they spend their entire lives chasing comfort. They build their existence around convenience, warm beds, easy routines, no resistance. But what they don't realize is that comfort is the silent killer of ambition. It's seductive. It whispers to you, telling you that you've earned rest, that you've done enough, that you deserve an easy life. And before you know it, you've stopped growing. You've become another average person living inside a box, avoiding the edges that define greatness. The truth is, growth doesn't happen in comfort zones. It happens in chaos, in discomfort, in those moments when your body and mind are screaming at you to stop, and you don't. Every time you choose the harder path, every time you lean into pain instead of running from it, you're rewiring your mind. You're building a new relationship with suffering. That's where greatness begins. Not in talent, not in motivation, but in the decision to embrace the grind when no one else will. People think pain is punishment, but Goggins teaches that pain is education. Pain reveals the truth about who you are. It strips away your excuses, your ego, your fake confidence, and forces you to meet the real you. Most people never meet that version of themselves because they always turn away when things get tough. They numb the pain, distract themselves, or quit the moment life demands more. That's why mediocrity feels normal. It's not that people can't be great. Stay hard. It's that they've made peace with being average because it's easier to live numb than to live awake. You have to start viewing discomfort as your teacher. Every obstacle, every rejection, every setback, it's a test. The question isn't, why is this happening to me? The question is, what is this trying to teach me? Goggins says the mind has to be trained like a muscle. If you avoid resistance, you stay weak. If you confront it, you get stronger. The more pain you endure, the more power you gain. That's the paradox of progress. The path to strength runs straight through suffering. Look around. We live in a world that worships comfort. Fast food, shortcuts, instant results. Everything is built to make life easier. But easy is the breeding ground of mediocrity. You can't grow while trying to make everything convenient. Stay hard. You can't evolve while staying safe. The people who become extraordinary are the ones who deliberately walk toward what scares them. Stay hard. They run into the storm, not away from it, because they understand something most people never do. Stay hard. The storm is where you discover what you're made of. When you start to chase discomfort, something changes inside you. Your threshold for pain expands. Your confidence grows because you begin to trust yourself, not in words, but in experience. You stop saying, I can, and start proving it. You stop needing motivation and start operating on discipline. You stop looking for inspiration and start becoming it. That's what happens when you stop running from hard things. You build an unshakable core. So if you want to stop being mediocre, stop seeking comfort. It's not about punishing yourself or living in constant struggle. It's about developing a mindset that refuses to break when life gets hard. It's about being comfortable being uncomfortable. Every time you resist the urge to quit, stay hard. Every time you take one more step when your mind says no, you're separating yourself from the pack. You're becoming uncommon among the uncommon. Don't let comfort dictate your limits. Don't let the easy path decide your potential. Because every great thing in life is hiding behind something uncomfortable. The question is, how far are you willing to go to meet it? Less comfort is the cage. Pain is the key. Unlock yourself. Thus, there's a voice inside every single one of us. And if you're honest, you know, stay hard, exactly which one I'm talking about. It's that quiet, persuasive whisper that shows up right when you're about to push yourself. It tells you to rest a little longer, to take the day off, to stop before it hurts. It's the voice that convinces you that you've done enough when you've barely started. That's the weak voice, the inner enemy. And if you don't learn to recognize and control it, it will run your entire life. David Goggins calls it the inner bitch voice, and it's not a joke. It's real. It's psychological. It's that part of your brain that's wired for comfort, for safety, for ease. It evolved to protect you from danger. But in modern life, it's the reason you never reach your potential. The mind's primary job is to keep you alive, not to make you great. That means it will always choose safety over growth. Every time you listen to that voice, you strengthen it. You give it more control over your decisions, your habits, and ultimately your destiny. You have to understand how it operates. It doesn't shout. It doesn't force you. It whispers in logic. It tells you things that sound reasonable. You need rest. You worked hard yesterday. You can start again tomorrow. And that's what makes it dangerous. Because it hides behind rationality. But greatness doesn't live in reason. Greatness lives in resistance. That inner voice wants you to survive. Your higher self wants you to evolve. And the two will always be at war. The question is, which one are you feeding every day? Because both voices exist within you. The weak one and the warrior one. The weak one seeks relief. The warrior one seeks results. Every morning when you wake up, you have a choice. You can negotiate with weakness or command with discipline. You can be the slave of your emotions or the master of your mind. The outcome of your life depends entirely on which side wins that internal battle, not once, but every single day. When Goggins says, callous your mind, this is what he means. Every time you ignore the weak voice and do the hard thing anyway, you build resilience. You're teaching your brain who's in charge. You're rewiring your psychology from reactive to deliberate. It's a process of mental conditioning, repetition under pressure. And it's not glamorous. It's quiet. It's lonely. But it's what separates those who talk about greatness from those who live it. You have to stop negotiating with your limits. That voice will always try to talk you out of discomfort. Stay hard. It's never going away, and that's the truth most people don't want to accept. You can't eliminate it. You can only overpower it. The stronger you get, the quieter it becomes. And one day you realize something powerful. The voice that once controlled you now fuels you. Every I can't becomes watch me. Every doubt becomes data. Every hesitation becomes a signal that you're on the right path. Because it means you're growing. This battle with the inner voice is the foundation of self-mastery. It's not about being fearless. It's about acting despite fear. It's not about silencing the mind completely. It's about owning it. The moment you start running toward the very thing that voice tells you to avoid, you flip the switch from victim to warrior. That's when discipline takes over. That's when the transformation begins. You want to stop being mediocre. Start catching that voice in real time. When it says, I don't feel like it, that's your cue to move. When it says, you've done enough, that's your sign to push harder. When it says, you can't, that's your chance to prove it wrong. Because every time you defy that voice, you evolve. In the end, mastery doesn't come from motivation. It comes from domination. Not over the world, not over others, but over yourself. You are not weak because the voice exists. You are weak when you obey it. Dominate it, and you dominate your life. People talk about mental toughness like it's some mysterious quality you're either born with or not. But that's not how it works. You don't wake up one morning with an iron mind. You build it piece by piece, repetition by repetition. Just like a callus forms on your hands after lifting weights or working hard, your mind develops its own kind of callus through struggle, through exposure to discomfort, through deliberate suffering. That's what David Goggins means when he talks about callousing the mind. It's about conditioning yourself to stay strong when most people would crumble. The problem is most people quit before that process ever begins. The second things get uncomfortable, they back off. The moment life pushes against them, they retreat. What they don't realize is that pain is the pressure that shapes mental strength. It's not there to destroy you, it's there to reveal you. Every time you go through something hard and endure it, you're teaching your brain a powerful lesson. I can survive this. That's how the mind starts to change. That's how resilience is born. The callous mind isn't built overnight. It's built in the moments nobody sees. When you get up early, even though you're exhausted. When you train in the cold, the rain, the darkness, not because you have to, but because you told yourself you would. Every time you do something uncomfortable and refuse to quit, you're laying another layer on that mental armor. Over time, the things that used to break you stop having the same power. The noise in your head gets quieter. The fear gets smaller. The pain doesn't disappear. You just stop being controlled by it. It's like emotional scar tissue. Every experience that once felt unbearable becomes part of your structure. Stay hard. You stop being fragile because you've experienced what it means to be tested and to endure. That's the essence of Goggins' philosophy. You don't become strong by avoiding struggle. You become strong by surviving it repeatedly until your threshold expands. You go from, I can't handle this, to, I've handled worse. That's what separates people who rise from people who fold. There's something deeply psychological about it too. The human brain adapts to stress the same way the body does. When you expose it to controlled doses of pain, adversity, or challenge, it learns to cope better. It stops interpreting difficulty as danger. That's why Goggins pushes himself to extremes. Not because he enjoys the suffering, but because he understands what it does to his mind. He's building proof. Proof that he can face anything and still move forward. That kind of proof gives you a quiet confidence that no motivational quote or speech can replicate. But here's the truth. Mental calluses fade if you stop training them. Just like muscles shrink when you stop using them. Stay hard. Your mental strength weakens if you fall back into comfort. That's why discipline is non-negotiable. You have to keep testing yourself, keep finding new edges to push against. The moment you think you've arrived is the moment you start to decay. The mind demands challenge. Without it, you drift back toward mediocrity. So how do you start? You start by doing something that sucks every single day. Take the cold shower. Run when it's raining. Study when you're tired. Face that difficult conversation. Choose the option that forces you to grow instead of the one that keeps you safe. None of these moments feel heroic while you're in them, but collectively they forge something unbreakable inside you. You're no longer reacting to life. You're conditioning yourself to rise above it. You have to remember, every great thing you want, strength, purpose, freedom, is on the other side of repetition. There's no shortcut, no hack, no motivation strong enough to replace consistent exposure to discomfort. That's how warriors are built. That's how Goggins was built. Through the grind, through the pain, through the relentless decision to keep going no matter what. Because at the end of the day, the world doesn't reward those who avoid pain. It rewards those who can endure it without breaking. So keep grinding. Callous your mind. Because every scar you earn in the process is proof that you refuse to stay soft. Thus, one of the biggest traps people fall into is living for validation. They spend their whole lives performing for the approval of others, seeking likes, compliments, titles, or recognition, and they mistake that for purpose. But here's the truth. Validation is just another form of control. Stay hard. The moment you start needing it, you hand over your power, because your worth becomes dependent on what someone else thinks of you. And when they stop clapping, you stop believing in yourself. That's mediocrity disguised as success. David Goggins doesn't chase validation. He chases mastery. That's a completely different mindset. Stay hard. Mastery means doing the work not because someone's watching, but because you demand it of yourself. It means you hold yourself to a standard that no one else can see, that no one else even understands. You grind in silence. You build in the dark. You push yourself not for applause, but because you know you're capable of more. And settling for less feels like betrayal. The problem with seeking validation is that it keeps you emotionally broke. It turns your self-esteem into a debt that only other people can pay. Every compliment gives you a temporary high, but when it fades, you're right back to empty. And so you chase it again. Another like, another pat on the back, another performance. Stay hard. It's a cycle of dependency. True freedom begins the moment you no longer need external permission to feel valuable. That's when you stop performing and start living philosophically. This is the difference between living from the outside in and the inside out. Most people live from the outside in. They let the world tell them who they are, what they're worth, and what they should be doing. But warriors, people like Goggins, live from the inside out. Their drive comes from an internal standard, an inner contract they refuse to break. They're not trying to prove anything to anyone. They're trying to live in alignment with their potential. That's what mastery really is. Integrity between who you are and who you could be. When you shift your focus from validation to mastery, something powerful happens. Stay hard. You stop being fragile. Criticism stops hurting because your identity isn't tied to other people's opinions. Failure stops scaring you because you're not chasing perfection. You're chasing progress. Stay hard. You stop comparing yourself to others because you're too busy competing with your previous self. You start operating from discipline instead of insecurity. And that's when you finally become dangerous. But this takes honesty. Brutal honesty. You have to be willing to admit that a lot of what you've been doing, the image you've built, the goals you've chased, might have been driven by ego, not purpose. You have to ask yourself, am I doing this because it fulfills me or because it makes me look good? And if the answer makes you uncomfortable, that's good. That discomfort is clarity. It's a chance to reset your standard, to stop being a performer and start being a professional at your own life. The pursuit of mastery is lonely. There are no crowds, no medals, no applause. But there's something deeper, peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing you gave everything you had. Goggins calls it the accountability mirror. You look at yourself at the end of the day and ask, did I give my all today? Did I hold the line when no one was watching? That's the only validation that matters, because the world can lie to you. But that reflection never does. So stop living for applause. Stop waiting for someone else to tell you you're good enough. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to stand out through your effort, your consistency, your unshakable self-respect. Mastery begins where validation ends. When you stop chasing approval, you start becoming unstoppable. You can tell everything about a person by what they tolerate. The standards you live by are not defined by what you say you want. They're defined by what you're willing to accept when things get hard. Stay hard. Most people don't fail because they set their goals too high. They fail because they set their standards too low and make peace with mediocrity. They tolerate laziness, inconsistency, excuses. And over time, those tolerances become their identity. David Goggins says, you are what you tolerate. That's not just motivation, it's psychology. Every time you let yourself off the hook, every time you justify quitting, you're teaching your mind that mediocrity is acceptable, and the mind learns fast. It starts lowering the bar in every area of your life, your work, your health, your relationships. Before long, stay hard. You're living a version of yourself that's far below your potential, but you've learned to rationalize it. That's how most people lose their edge, not in one dramatic failure, but in small, quiet compromises that compound over time. The scary thing is, you don't even notice it happening. The decline into mediocrity is subtle. It's skipping one workout because it's just today. It's cutting corners at work because no one will notice. It's ignoring that inner voice that tells you to go harder, stay hard, because you've already done enough. Those small choices seem harmless in the moment, but they're shaping your future. Every time you choose comfort over commitment, you weaken the part of you that demands excellence. The standard you walk past is the standard you accept. The truth is, your life is always reflecting your standards. If your relationships are toxic, it's because you tolerate disrespect. If your body is weak, it's because you tolerate inconsistency. If your dreams are stagnant, it's because you tolerate procrastination. You can't separate your results from your standards. They're the same thing. And that's where accountability begins. Because once you understand that, you can no longer blame your circumstances. You either raise your standard or you stay the same. Raising your standards isn't about perfection. It's about demanding more from yourself than the average person would. It's about holding yourself to a level of consistency that doesn't depend on motivation. Goggins doesn't get up and run because he feels like it. He does it because it's non-negotiable. His standard doesn't fluctuate with emotion. It's fixed. That's what real discipline looks like. It's not glamorous. It's not inspirational quotes and hype music. It's a quiet, daily decision to meet your own expectations no matter what. And here's the deeper truth. Your standards define your self-respect. When you break promises to yourself, you destroy trust in yourself. You start doubting your own word. But when you follow through, even when it hurts, even when it's inconvenient, you build an internal credibility that no one can take from you. That's where confidence comes from. Not from external success, but from knowing you keep your word to yourself. That's how you earn self-respect. Through repetition, through sacrifice, through doing what needs to be done when no one is clapping. You have to decide what your line in the sand is. What will you no longer tolerate? Mediocrity, excuses, weakness. Whatever it is, draw that line and defend it. Because if you don't define your limits, the world will do it for you. And it will always choose comfort over greatness. This isn't about being hard on yourself for the sake of pain. It's about living with integrity. It's about aligning your actions with your potential. When you raise your standards, stay hard, you send a message to the world, and more importantly, to yourself, that you're not here to be average. You're here to lead, to grow, to evolve. Stop tolerating the version of you that settles. Your new life begins the moment your standards rise higher than your excuses. Most people think the mission ends once they hit a goal. They run a marathon, lose some weight, finish a project, and then they stop. They relax. They go back to comfort. But that's not how greatness works. Greatness doesn't have a finish line. It's not a one-time accomplishment. It's a lifetime pursuit. That's what David Goggins means when he says, stay hard. It's not about being aggressive or emotionless. It's about being relentless. It's about maintaining your edge, your discipline, your hunger, long after the initial motivation fades. The real challenge in life isn't getting strong, it's staying strong. Stay hard. It's easy to be motivated when you're climbing from the bottom, when life's beating you down and you've got something to prove. But what happens when you start to succeed? When things get comfortable again, that's when most people lose their fire. They stop doing the very things that got them there. They confuse progress with permanence. But discipline doesn't expire. The fight never ends. You don't become unbreakable by achieving something. You become unbreakable by maintaining that standard every single day, no matter what. Staying hard means staying in control of your own narrative. Life will test you constantly, physically, mentally, emotionally. There's always going to be something trying to soften you: comfort, success, doubt, the opinions of others. If you're not careful, you start letting those things shape you instead of the mission. You stop sharpening the blade. You start believing you've made it. And that's when mediocrity creeps back in. The mind loves to drift. It wants to return to ease. Staying hard is the practice of catching that drift, noticing it, and snapping yourself back into focus before you slide too far. Goggins learned that the hard way. Every time he thought he was done, he discovered there was another level. That's the beauty of the human mind. It's limitless if you're willing to keep going past the point of comfort. When he talks about the 40% rule, he's describing that moment when you think you're finished, but you're really only at 40% of your true capacity. Most people never experience what's beyond that because they quit when it starts to hurt. But when you decide to keep going, when you push past that voice that says, "Enough," you unlock a part of yourself that few ever see. You realize pain isn't the signal to stop. It's the doorway to the next level. Philosophically, Stay Hard is about identity. It's not something you do, it's who you become. It's a mindset built on endurance, self-respect, and purpose. It's about showing up with full intensity, whether anyone's watching or not. It's about doing the work when it's boring, when it's lonely, when it's inconvenient. Because that's when most people fall off. And that's where the separation happens. You can't claim to be elite if you only show up when it's easy. You prove it in the moments when no one else will. That's staying hard. You can't fake that level of commitment. It's forged through consistency, through accountability, through living with the awareness that there's always more to give. When you live that way, the world can't touch you. Success doesn't inflate you. Failure doesn't define you. You're grounded in your own standard, and that makes you unstoppable. Staying hard doesn't mean you never rest or feel pain. It means you never lose your purpose. You rest with intention, recover with focus, and return sharper than before. You don't chase comfort, you respect the process. You live with the discipline of someone who refuses to be average, not for a week, not for a season, but for life. Because in the end, this isn't about being perfect. It's about being relentless. It's about waking up every day and deciding that who you were yesterday isn't good enough for who you're becoming tomorrow. That's the standard. That's the mission. That's the mindset of someone who refuses to break. Don't just get hard. Stay hard. Because greatness isn't achieved once, it's maintained forever. Dax F.